Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Superhuman Radio. Today is the show that we've been planning to do. We had a little mix-up on the difference between Pacific and East Coast time, but I am here today with an old friend, Mike Mahler. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing good. It actually gave me flashbacks to hear that intro music. I haven't heard that in a long time. I like it.
I know it is. You know, I know what I like about it. Whenever it says that, you know, no excuses. I mean, it's really the show is about that. When at the end of the day, you know, you endow yourself with information, you take action. No excuses. That's
absolutely. I always say a problem is only a problem if you don't know what to do about it. When you know what to do about it, it's not that big. I mean, it's still a problem, but it doesn't get your adrenaline through the roof, as we're going to talk about today. I mean, I had a nasty groin injury in January. I was doing deficit trap bar deadlifts, and there's nothing wrong with that exercise. I just had this inner thigh pain, and I ignored it and just kept on putting on more weight. And then I put on a weight that is light for me, but once I lifted the bar off the ground, I felt this stretch, like something.
Did you tear it? Yeah, you did.
Yeah, it wasn't a full tear. It might not even have been a tear. It was a stretch, but I'll tell you what, it was so painful. I mean, I was lying on the sofa later on that day, and my right leg fell off, and I couldn't raise it back up. The pain just shot through my pelvis. I couldn't sit up either. So a lot of times they say that's a sports hernia when you have those symptoms.
Really?
So I was like, wow, I'm going to be out of commission for a while, but let me get into action as fast as possible and see how quickly I can recover. And I'll tell you what, it was the combination of active release technique. I've gone to these active release technique practitioners for over 15 years, and I've always had great results. And the sooner you get to them, the better. So this injury happened on a Saturday. By that following Monday, I was meeting up with this guy, Dr. Booth, here in Henderson, Nevada. And after one session, I felt about 20% better. I mean, it was crazy painful. Anyone who's ever done active release technique, but when you're already in so much pain, who cares? You know?
Well, and the irony is that when you do it, it actually feels better afterwards.
Yeah,
when you do active release, you feel pain because they're usually trying to impinge a muscle and keep it from moving, and then they want you to activate the muscle and stretch it.
Right. 100%.
And so it's painful, but then afterwards you're like, oh, it feels a lot better.
Yeah, especially the next day, I noticed a big difference. And I went to him, took about 4 sessions over the course of a few weeks, but I was back to doing pretty heavy partial deadlifts after about 2 weeks. And I wasn't expecting to be able to deadlift at all for probably months. I was in so much pain. And then I got stem cells from my friend, Dr. Julio Garcia. And I've had stem cells a couple times. I've had it in my elbow, lower back, and then now I had it in the groin. So that was fun. So I had stem cells and what's the other one? Platelet-rich plasma.
Yeah, PRP. Yeah, very promising therapy for a variety of reasons.
Absolutely. That made a difference. I think that put me over the top. The active release technique was maybe 75, 80% of it. And then I got another 10, 15%. Maybe I would have gotten more if I did it sooner. I just didn't think of it right away. But the whole point of this story is that people get injuries like this all the time. And what happens when you go to the emergency room or you go to a physician? Generally, you're probably going to leave with medications or pain relief, or they're going to schedule you an appointment with a surgeon. You know, it's going to be that kind of experience.
Right.
And if you know what to do in this situation, it's not that big of a deal. I went into 100% action mode, like what you're saying. People listen to all this information. What's the good of it if you're not actually utilizing it when the opportunity comes up? My friend Thomas Incledon does all this alternative therapy for cancer. And I always say that if you ever get cancer, and I hope no one gets cancer, but if you ever do, you want to know exactly what to do immediately. At least go get a consult with someone that seems trustworthy. Get different opinions rather than freak out, because you're going to be told a very scary storyline of, if you don't get this, you're going to die in this amount of time. And of course you're going to freak out. But if you know what to do in that situation, at least you have an idea of who you should go to for advice. It's not going to be as daunting.
So interesting. PRP is all the rage because basically what it does is it takes platelets, which are responsible for healing.
Right.
And it super concentrates them, and then you inject them into the area. Now, those platelets would have had activity in your body and healing, but it would have taken a long time, the accumulation, and plus the platelets are all over your body, and trying to mobilize them into one spot, it's easier just to inject them.
Yeah.
So everyone agrees that platelet-rich plasma is the thing to do for so many different injuries.
Yeah.
We just did a show on erectile dysfunction. They're actually injecting PRP into men's penises and correcting the corpus, the vasculature, the corpus. It's not the corpus callosum. That's in your brain. Yeah. But anyway, cavernosa, the corpus cavernosa, and guys are having erections again that they couldn't have before. So PRP works. But now, interestingly enough, 20 years ago, Dr. Robert Gorder, a UCLA trained physician, since you talked about cancer, started to cure pancreatic cancer by doing the same thing with dendrites. He would extract dendrites, he would spin them, concentrate them, and then inject them directly into the tumors, and the tumors would go away. And the FDA shut him down. And he now he lives in Germany, and he runs the Gorder model Cancer Institute in Cologne, Germany. But it's the same premise. It's a super concentrating the dendrites and shooting them into a tumor. But you can't get that therapy here in the United States. It's not legal, but it cures cancer.
Yeah.
Cures cancer.
Well, there's big money that's being made in cancer, unfortunately. Oncology is huge. So on one hand, I'm obviously not anti-capitalism, but one of the negatives of a pure capitalism strategy is that it's about profit. So if something comes in that's going to take away profit from big money institutions, they're gonna try to squash that or make it very difficult for you to access it or try to disqualify it in some way.
Right. So you have always been on the tip of the spear of a lot of different things over your career. Yeah. And recently you've been talking more and more about something that probably is under everybody's nose, but they don't think about it, and that's adrenaline dominance. Talk about it. Why did adrenaline dominance get into your windshield all of a sudden? And where did this process come from where you started to examine it?
Yeah, I mean, I read this great book called Mastering Leptin many years ago by Byron Richards, and he talked about master control hormones such as insulin and leptin, and that really gave me the information on the importance of leptin. And insulin I already knew was very important, but leptin I just didn't. I mean, I knew about it, but I didn't realize the full importance of it. And then adrenaline was included in that as well, because most of us are adrenaline dominant, and that's a condition that Dr. Wright brings up, and it's similar into how we describe estrogen dominance, where you have way too much estrogen, and then for women, they don't have enough progesterone to balance it, or testosterone as well. And a lot of men have high estrogen levels, very low testosterone, or they have okay testosterone levels, but very high estrogen, so they're still estrogen dominant.
Right.
And estrogen dominance has become so prolific that every day one of the favorite things I like to do in Vegas is just people watching. You just grab a cup of tea and sit down and let the wild events unfold. But you can count, or at least I can count, probably 25 men that have estrogen dominance visibly within
just looking at them, right?
Yeah,
right.
Because of where they store body fat. You store a lot of body fat in the lower body. So some overweight women that are estrogen dominant, and generally if you're overweight, you're estrogen dominant, you're going to store a lot of body fat in the lower body. Now men are starting to store a lot of body fat like overweight women are, and it's becoming so common it's scary.
Right.
But I don't want to get too sidetracked there. We're talking about adrenaline. But
what you're talking about is important. You're setting the stage to recognize that any hormone could become dominant if all the other and it's kind of like, and I think you and I have actually talked about this on the air years ago. You know, hormones are like an orchestra. Right. And if all of a sudden the tubas start playing louder than everybody else, it's not music anymore. It's like, man, those tubas are so loud. Right. This is what happens with hormones in your body, and it could be any hormone.
That's absolutely correct. And you can actually have a situation where, let's say you're on TRT and then you're taking some kind of AI, some aromatase inhibitor to block conversion of testosterone to estrogen. Those drugs are extremely potent. So you can lower estrogen too much. And if your estrogen levels are too low, you're going to have this feeling of a weak penis, weak erections, no sex drive, terrible mood, even though your testosterone levels could be 900 or so. If your estrogen is, say, let's say 5 or 8, when it should be around 20 or 30 estradiol, to one of the markers, you're just gonna feel terrible. I've actually had people that take my estrogen I hate to call it an estrogen blocker. It's more of an estrogen balancing product, EC. I've had people who take too much of that and it lowers their estrogen too much. So I always say start conservative with 1 or 2 caps. I mean, you don't really need to take it unless you've determined that you have estrogen issues, either through blood work or you could do the mirror test where you're storing body fat. But start with a low dose and work your way up, because driving down estrogen too much is going to feel similar to when your estrogen levels are too high.
So let's talk about adrenaline for a second. And
Okay.
I've talked on this show over the years. I've started to refer to the United States as caffeination, because we are a nation of there are literally you can spit and hit a coffee shop from anywhere on any street and probably
100%.
And so people are downing coffee. They wake up in the morning, they're drinking, they're doing 5-hour energy shots. They're drinking big, 300 milligrams of caffeine coffee 2-3 times a day, pushing adrenaline basically and cortisol through the roof 24/7 all the time.
Right.
Is this where the adrenaline dominance is coming from, or is there something also going on in our environment?
I think it's pretty multifaceted. It's a combination of many things. It's one, yes, we're overstimulated because we're sleep deprived. People aren't sleeping well, and that's related to too much adrenaline as well. So if your adrenaline levels are really high at night, it's virtually impossible to relax. One thing people don't realize about hormones is that if hormones are programming you to feel a certain way, it's basically impossible to not feel that way. So if you're programmed to be stressed, you're going to feel stressed no matter what kind of meditation you do or what kind of relaxation strategy you try to implement. If you have really low testosterone and DHT, you're not going to have a sex drive. Like you said, this orchestra has to be in balance. So when hormones have way more effect in how we think and feel than how we think and feel affects hormones. There's definitely cross linkage, but there's definitely more emphasis from in one direction than the other.
Right.
So with adrenaline, it's a combination of many things. One is we're just bombarded with stress like we've never had in the history of humankind. And what I mean by that is we're just stimulated all the time. We're in traffic. People have road rage. People are flicking you off. People are cutting you off. You're getting mad. They're getting mad, right? We deal with that all the time. And then you go on social media and people are really negative, such as Twitter. Like I eradicated my Twitter account maybe last month just because I just got tired of going on there and just seeing negativity, just people shouting at each other. That's what it looked like. So I don't need this. So I just deleted that. Now with social media, if you follow the right people, it's not really stressful. It can be motivating. So you can follow people on Facebook like yourself or on Instagram. People put up a lot of their workouts, and I find that motivating. So it doesn't have to be stressful. But I think where adrenaline starts pumping is when you have this keeping up with the Joneses type mentality of, oh, well, Carl has 5,000 followers, so I need 5,000 followers. Or Carl's doing this. Or Jim has 300,000 followers, so I need that. So it starts becoming this competition.
Right.
And that's when people go into over-the-top behavior. That's when women are posting pics of their backside every day because that's getting them 500 likes. What's all this adding up to? So you're spending all this energy trying to impress people that you're never going to meet in person. You may not even like these people in person, and it has no significant benefit on your life. But let me just get into the background a little bit of adrenaline, what it is and why it's so important. So I'm just going to look at some of my notes here. So adrenaline is a hormone produced by the adrenal glands and is released in response to stress. So it's our fight or flight hormone.
Right.
You're about to get into a fight at a bar, your adrenaline goes through the roof. And you either feel like fighting back or running out of there, maybe a combination of both.
Right.
But it's that kind of motion. Now, we get this fight or flight response not just to serious stresses, but to mild stresses. I always say that my mother had a heart attack a while back and she passed. And we always talk about how, oh, we lost family to heart disease and so forth. But what was one of the underlying causes for that heart disease? And I think while my mom wasn't a wild person, adventurous per se, she was pumping out adrenaline all the time. She was always stressed. She was always worried about stuff. And I think that's one of the primary reasons why I blood pressure in the first place.
I want to throw something into this discussion for a second. So from a genetic predisposition and from an evolutionary perspective, we are designed to seek out the danger in our environment. That was one of our gifts, to be vigilant, to know when there was an animal in the bushes and where we could go. Okay. But in today's environment, because we know what's going on in Iran and we know what's going on in Libya, we're stressing out about stuff that's not in our environment any longer. And it can't hurt us either, but we're being told all the time by the news, oh, this is going to hurt you. You better pay attention.
Right.
So I'm with you. People are so effing stressed today. Like they get in their cars, they listen to talk radio. They're literally in their head, they're arguing with somebody in the radio. They
Right.
watch TV, they're watching the news. They start arguing with people. They're stressed out. And you know what? Stress kills. It absolutely kills. It destroys the organs in your body. It
Absolutely.
shortens telomeres. It makes
Yep.
you age faster. And then when you pour on top of that a couple good 300 milligram cups of coffee,
Right.
you're right. You're absolutely right. We are in that fight or flight mode 24/7 now, and it gives you a heart attack. I did a show 6 or 7 years ago with a scientist who came on and talked about the overproduction of adrenaline and how it leads to heart failure because the heart becomes desensitized to the adrenaline. It's like if you went to a Kiss concert, like I used to go, and you sat up close, to the stage. When you got out, you couldn't hear anything. People would talk to you, be like, I can't hear you, because your sensitivity to hearing changed from your heart, when it's constantly being told, oh, we're being chased by tigers, it finally goes, F it, man, I'm not repaying. And then it literally, you are more prone to heart failure as a result of that.
Right. Right. And adrenaline, what you're referring to, adrenaline resistance, that's basically what leads to adrenaline dominance, just like insulin resistance does, leptin resistance, et cetera. But I mean, adrenaline is also often referred to as epinephrine because it's a neurotransmitter as well. It's one of the primary neurotransmitters that helps with being driven and focused. So, I mean, adrenaline used at the right time can be very effective, especially for physical performance goals. So, for example, I like to do a lot of heavy weight training, deadlifts, squats, et cetera. Now, I love aggressive music, but I don't like to listen to it on the drive over because I don't want to start ramping up all this adrenaline on the drive over. That's not useful. I don't even like to listen to intense music on the warm-up sets. I listen to rock music, motivating music. But once I get to those heavy sets, that's when I go to hardcore or heavy metal or death metal because it gets me amped up. And then once I finish that top set, I go back to positive music, but not as intense because I don't need that adrenaline pumping all the time.
And in fact, that you notice that, and I've okay, so you and I probably have seen someone do this. Somebody gets all revved up and psyched up to deadlift. Right? And they pull the weight or they miss, either one. And they put the weight down and they turn around and they pass out. That is because when adrenaline peaks and it drops, you get washed out. Your blood pressure drops, everything. So people will say to me, you know, I don't know why I feel so tired and washed out right now. Well, probably because the adrenaline has finally come back down where it belongs. Yeah, exactly. And when you're doing a really heavy set, like say, for example, if I'm going to deadlift 600 pounds, I want that bar to move from point A to point B quickly. I don't want to get stuck at any point because that's where the danger of passing out and so forth happens. You hit that sticking point above the knees and you start contorting your body, and now you're trying to jerk it. I don't know what people are doing in that situation. Just put the bar down. But I never go for 100% maximum effort. I go for maybe 95% or 90% because to me that's close enough. And as long as that number is better than what the previous number was, I'm making progress without wearing and tearing on my body so much because I'm not competing in powerlifting. I just do this for fun. But I want it to look good and I want it to go from point A to point B quickly because like you said, the last thing I want to do is holding my breath and have high adrenaline levels under stress for several seconds. That could be enough to pass out. You can really hurt yourself. You pass out, you could hit the wall behind you. I've seen guys face plant. I've seen guys face plant right into the ground. I mean, really hurt themselves. Yeah, you
can watch these clips on YouTube, these CrossFit fails or deadlift fails, and you see a lot of that. And a lot of times it's not even that heavy. Someone doing 3 plates, but it's heavy for them, of course. But the technique is not there, and it's too much too soon. If I could tell my younger self anything about weight training, I would be like, be patient. It's going to come around. Just stick around. You don't have to hit that PR this week or next week or next month. Just put in the work. Put in the work and be patient. So now
enjoy the journey. Enjoy the journey.
I have a goal of working up to 700 pounds in a deadlift by the time I'm 50. I could do probably 605 right now. 585 is the most I've ever done. But I'm confident I could do 605 if I went into the gym today. But I'm giving myself 5 years to hit that goal. I'm not trying to hit it this year or next year. I'm going to take my time, get 15, 20 pounds a year for the next 5 years. And like you said, I enjoy working out. I'm not someone who goes, oh, I hate working out, but I like the results. I'll just deal with the process, because you're not going to sustain that.
Right.
You know, that's someone trying to use adrenaline too. You can't pump out adrenaline forever. So if you have to get into this adrenaline state to do something all the time, it's going to be, I mean, that only works on an episode of 24 with Jack Bauer.
Yeah, right.
No
for 24 hours.
Yeah,
for 24 hours.
And you're still performing at a high level. No one's eating anything. And 24 hours later, you're still working at this. Jack is in prison for 2 years in China. He comes back and he's ready to go into action right away. Right. It doesn't work like that in the real world. So, I mean, adrenaline release for short periods of time is not a big deal. And we can actually, if you have adrenaline sensitivity and you produce a small amount of adrenaline, but you utilize it well, just like someone who has really good insulin sensitivity and leptin sensitivity as well, what happens is you'll actually pull energy from stubborn fat areas, the stomach, the hips, and so forth. So now you're going to lose fat in areas that are very difficult to lose fat in.
Right.
But most people, that's not their profile. Their profile is the opposite. It's that adrenaline is being ramped up all the time. So your body, your brain is thinking, okay, we're under this constant bombardment of stress. So what we need to do is every time we eat, we're going to put energy in those stubborn fat areas so that we can utilize it later in an emergency.
Because this guy is obviously going to die soon, so we have to. We have to keep, well, and so those of you who are doubting what Mike is saying about adrenaline's effect on fat, when you turn it on and off appropriately versus when it's on all the time, those of you who know anything about beta adrenergic activists like clenbuterol, you know that clenbuterol only works for about 6 to 10 weeks, and then it stops working. And why? Because the fat cells go, no, man, this guy is always asking for our fat. We're not doing it anymore. So it's the same exact effect.
Well, those of us who used Estrogen can relate to that as well, because everyone loved Estrogen when it was out, because it would shut off your appetite and it would have you all amped up. So you're going the whole day without eating easily and you're amped up. You can't sit still, but you're pumping out adrenaline all day. So you're just eating away at tissue. One of the worst things you can do, like I like intermittent fasting, and I know it works very well for some people, but it's not a good fit for everyone. If you have adrenaline dominance, it's not a good fit for you. The last thing you want to do is go the entire day without eating, because that's just making your body pump out as much adrenaline as possible to get you through the day. So now you're in this adrenaline wave. You're going, oh man, I'm not hungry at all. I have more energy than ever. No, you have the illusion of energy because you're pumping out also adrenaline. And most of these people are also drinking a lot of coffee, because for whatever reason, that's okay.
I did intermittent fasting for a couple years, but now I'm off of it. I get up in the morning, I have breakfast. You know, you got to cycle on and off this sort of stuff. It has to be phasing. So okay, so let's talk about. Okay, I would say 90% of the people watching us right now, or watching us later when the podcast is out, they suffer from some form of adrenaline dominance in today's environment. What should they be doing differently?
Well, I'm a big believer. People always talk about stress management. I'm a big believer in stress eradication. But let's talk about the diet first. Get a good balance of protein, low glycemic carbohydrates, essential fatty acids, good fats, coconut oil, olive oil. Get these in several times a day, such as don't go more than 4 hours without having some meal. Now, I like longer stretches between meals for someone that has adrenaline sensitivity and insulin sensitivity and so forth, because you're going to go to store body fat for energy more. But when you have adrenaline dominance, the last thing you want to basically cut off any opportunity for adrenaline to ramp up throughout the day. And if you're eating regularly, now you're getting energy from that. There's no reason to have a pronounced adrenaline effect. So don't skip meals and get a good balance of protein, fat, low glycemic carbohydrates at every single meal. Don't go more than 4 hours. You don't have to eat every 2 hours. You don't have to eat 7 times a day, but I would say 3 to 4 meals a day, definitely no less than 3. And you're going to find that you're going to be much calmer as a result of that. You're going to be more energetic, but you're also going to be calm because you're not pumping out this adrenaline all the time. Right. Because, I mean, high levels of adrenaline also have a negative effect on testosterone levels because it lowers luteinizing hormone. So luteinizing hormone is a signal that your brain sends out to the testes to ramp up testosterone production. And if you have prolonged adrenaline levels, you're going to curtail that whole process. And then sometimes people mistake the feeling of adrenaline for testosterone, where they have anger issues, they have road rage. People are like, oh, that guy has too much testosterone. It's like, no. He has too much adrenaline. Right. Way too much adrenaline. Testosterone is actually calming. When you have high testosterone levels, you're more confident, you're more focused. I find I'm more compassionate when my testosterone levels are good. You kind of get that hero complex. You want to make sure people around you are protected. You feel that way.
Right.
So I think there's so many benefits of testosterone for men and women. And the last thing you want to do is just ramp up adrenaline all day and you just lose that whole benefit. And then what happens also is that adrenaline increases sugar in the blood and sends the energy-rich blood to the muscles so they can work harder and get us out of danger. So that's good, but what happens is if you're eating, let's say, a high sugar meal, this is why you want to avoid it. Insulin goes through the roof, clears all the blood sugar out of your bloodstream. So now you have this crash. So what has to come? What has to kick into gear to get your blood sugar levels back up?
Adrenaline and cortisol, because they're
exactly.
going to release glucagon and glycogen is going to be released from the liver. Exactly.
And adrenaline is pro-inflammatory. Cortisol is actually anti-inflammatory. So one of the reasons why cortisol comes up is to quell all the inflammation that adrenaline just produced. So cortisol is actually essential for life. If you don't produce cortisol, you die.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hormones. If you don't produce it, you don't die. But there's a few that if you don't produce, you die. Insulin, for example, if you don't produce it, you have to take it exogenously. You can't just cope without it. Cortisol is another one. Okay, so that's why we want to avoid high sugar meals. And that kind of goes back to what you were talking about, because no one just drinks coffee black. They have a lot of sugar and it's a dessert, right? You go to Starbucks.
Yeah.
First of all, I always find it amusing that at Starbucks, there's a long line in the drive-thru because people are too lazy to even get out of the car.
Trying to get there. Right.
And then there's no one inside the place. So if you parked your car, you could get in there, get your coffee, be out in minutes.
Faster than.
But then you would miss out on an opportunity to look at your Instagram for 20 minutes while you're sitting in that. So that always cracks me up is, you're trying to get this adrenaline rush, but your energy is so low you can't even get out of your car.
Right. So what about supplement? Obviously, meditation is a good thing for this population today. That's hyperadrenalated. But what about supplements? I know that you're a fan of a couple supplements that seem to. And when should you take them? Should you take them at night when adrenaline is supposed? Like, how do you resync the whole adrenal? What's the word I'm looking for? The diurnal effect of the adrenal glands. How do you resync it?
Right. Well, since most people are producing too much adrenaline, if someone has adrenal fatigue, for example, they've produced so much adrenaline that now they're not making cortisol anymore. So their cortisol in the morning is really low. And that's why they wake up, they're really tired. And then finally that cortisol kicks in at night and now they're energetic and they can't go to sleep. So they're stuck in this vicious circle. For someone like that, licorice, Charles Poliquin always talked about licorice, and Metagenics makes a really good one. You just take one tablet in the morning and afternoon. But that's a small percentage of people out there. Most people are in the opposite. They're producing way too much cortisol and adrenaline. So the last thing you want to take is licorice, which is just going to ramp that up. What you want is the opposite, stuff that's going to help you relax. And one that I found works really well, and I also learned about this from Charles Poliquin as well as Jerry Branham, is theanine. And for those of you that enjoy coffee, but you get the jitters with it, so it makes you think twice about having it. If you take 500 milligrams of theanine with the coffee, and you don't have to mix it in there, you can just take a cap or you can take a little bit of powder. I put it in my protein shake. I'm drinking a shake here. I just put theanine powder in it.
Right.
So 500 milligrams to 2 grams, you can go pretty high dosage on it. It's a really interesting compound because it makes you more relaxed, but it also makes you more focused. So you're focused and relaxed, and that's a really good thing. You want to talk about improving performance? We're talking about all the theatrics with deadlifts. When has that ever actually worked, right? You see someone getting amped up and they're screaming. The bar hasn't even moved yet and they're screaming. Now, Mark Philippi always told me the scream works, but you got to time it at the right moment.
Yes.
And the right moment is not when the bar is still on the ground. No. So you got to rip that. He taught me this dip and drive where you use a pronounced leg drive. It's really cool. And it took me a long time to get it right, similar to what Olympic lifters do. But if you time it right, you drop your hips and then you rip that bar off the ground as if you're doing a bent over row. The bar pops and it gets to about just below the knees, and then you can finish it off with your posterior chain. Now, the scream is useful when you hit that sticking point. So when I hit a PR last year, the bar felt pretty good off the floor, and then it started slowing down just above the knees, and that scared me because I didn't want to get stuck with this. So then I screamed it out.
You instinctively screamed. Yeah, exactly.
I screamed it out, and then at the very end, you did kind of a victory. At least I did a victory scream. I felt like I was on an episode of Spartacus. You're like, because you're so amped up, you pulled it off. It's fun. These are the fun things that go with lifting heavy weights and breaking through barriers. So that's an example of using adrenaline at the right time. But if I take theanine in a pre-workout, I like to take my testosterone booster an hour before I train because it has mucuna prurines in it. That increases dopamine, growth hormone.
Yeah, good stuff.
It's a nice mood elevator as well. You just feel good. And even a little bit of theanine, I'll either put it in my workout water or I'll just take it right before. Because again, I like being relaxed but focused. And then when the time is right, you ramp everything up. And you can all these lessons we learn in the gym, you can take that to other areas of your life.
Oh, to the boardroom. You can take it to the boardroom.
So don't get stressed out about stupid stuff. That's one thing. Someone cut you off in traffic, who cares?
Yeah,
you're going to flick this guy. What are you going to do? You're going to chase this guy down and potentially get shot? Especially here in Las Vegas, everybody's packing. The last thing you want to do is create a confrontational situation over nothing.
Right.
So just let these things go. You're on social media and you're like, oh, it's so negative. Then why are you on it? Get off of it. You don't have to be on it. Or follow people that are not negative. Right? Take some more theanine and you'll naturally step into.
You know, it's funny you mentioned Metagenics. Metagenics makes a calm bar. And it tastes like a Mounds. It's coconut and dark chocolate, and it's got 300 milligrams of L-theanine in the bar.
Oh, nice!
And they call it calm bar. Snack. Yeah. I mean, you can have that before you train. But I agree with you. I am always the strongest when I'm not hyper amped.
Right.
But when I'm so there's a difference between being hyper amped and super confident.
Right.
And the calmness brings the super confidence.
Right.
The rattle, like, oh man, I'm going to do something I'm not sure I can do. That's the hyper amped. That's up there.
That's right.
And I can never pull anything off when I'm hyper amped at all.
Me neither. When I have those days where I wake up and I can't wait to get to the gym, I was like, man, I'm going to go in there and destroy. Drive over, you're all amped up. You're like, I can't wait to get in there. And then you start going through your warm-up sets and everything feels heavy. You're like, wait a minute. With the way I was feeling, I was expecting to come in here and destroy.
Yeah, because you're already washed out by then. The adrenaline is already gone, like, we did our job. We're done.
Exactly. You wasted all that adrenaline on the drive over. Now you have nothing left, so you're spent. Sometimes I find that my best workouts are when I have a cold. I'm fighting a cold because, and I don't recommend going to the gym when you have a cold. Do it at home. You don't want to get other people sick. But sometimes when I have a cold, it makes you focus on the task at hand. You can't waste any energy.
Right.
You can't waste any energy on stupid stuff. And sometimes my best lifts are when I have that because I have to focus now on the task at hand and not get distracted.
And I would say that more people should meditate. And that's all I'm going to say about that. We've done shows on meditation. It's so easy to do once or twice a day, and it'll change your life. It really will change.
100%. And something like theanine will help with that. And I like the Holosync meditation program. That's these binaural beats. You just put headphones on and it takes you through a program. I like to do that every night, actually about an hour before I go to sleep, because just like you need pre-workout rituals, you need pre-sex rituals, you need pre-sleep rituals as well. And what do most of us do? We're on our computer all night, or we're watching TV, or both. We're on the computer and we're watching TV.
Right.
And it's 2 a.m, and then we go, oh, I guess I should go to sleep now. You just shut everything off.
Yeah, and your body goes, I'm not ready to go to sleep. Yeah.
No, your adrenaline is still pumping. So what you need to do is an intermediary step where you go, I always say turn off the TV and turn off the computer at least 2 hours before you go to bed. 3 is even better.
Or put on blue blocking glasses. I
wear those too.
If I want to be asleep at 9, which is my normal bedtime, mine and Elise's normal bedtime is 9 p.m.
Yeah.
And we put on our blue blockers between 7 and 8 o'clock, and I'm yawning by 9 o'clock, and I'm ready to go to sleep.
Yeah, the blue blocking glasses are cool, and they actually help produce more of your own natural melatonin production, because all these lights block out natural melatonin production. Right. So you find that when you put them on, you do start getting relaxed. You start yawning. You may even fall asleep in front of the TV and go, okay, I'm ready to go now. Yeah. Hot shower before you go to sleep. Just whatever it is. Sometimes I like to, if you live in a safe, I wouldn't necessarily recommend this if you don't live in a safe area, but I like to walk my dogs around the block sometimes right before I go to bed. Not a super long walk, just clear my head. Yeah. Because walking for me is meditation. I've never had a lot of success sitting in the lotus position or sitting on the couch. I mean, I do the Holosync program, but I find that walking has had such a profound effect on my well-being. And I do about 3 miles with the dogs. We live in a nice neighborhood here, 7 Hills in Henderson. So it's a nice walk. And then you just work out all these anxieties too.
I know. And this is why I like to walk by myself.
Yeah.
And I don't like to walk with somebody else because I don't want to talk. I want to think while I'm walking.
Exactly.
And then
I do my best thinking when I'm walking.
Yes,
every good business idea I've ever had was from a walk.
I agree 100%. Yeah. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about something else that you've been a strong advocate for a long time. men being men. We're going to talk about masculinity when we come back. Mike, plug your website real quick.
Yeah, sure. My website is MikeMahler.com.
Mahler.
Yep. And you can also get there at aggressivestrength.com. So that's a little bit easier to remember.
I can't find my aggressive strength shirt. I used to wear it so proudly. It had a kettlebell on the front of it. It said aggressive strength in red. And I know I would see people look at that shirt and they think, oh man, what's that about? You know?
When I was in London, this guy in the elevator one time said, oh, look at this guy's. I had a hoodie on and it had live life aggressively in the back. And he's like, oh, look at this guy, live life aggressively. And I just turned to him and I said, yeah, but be polite about it. And they just started laughing.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. All right, let's take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back with more of Mike Mahler. Stay tuned.
Cool.
Spit that out right now. This is the Superhuman Channel.
Welcome back. There have been a few people that have been vocal advocates for men, like Mike Mahler, unapologetic about being a man. How dare you not apologize for being a man in this environment today?
Yeah, if you even say that, they're like, see, that's what toxic masculinity is all about, as if I'm supposed to take on the burden of every man who's ever acted inappropriately or done anything bad. I go, look, there's evil in the world, but it's a human condition. It's not just relegated to men. And it's not necessarily because you're a man, you know? So if you're a violent person, it's not because you're a man or woman, you're just not a good person. You know, you have negative qualities. So this whole attack on masculinity it's unwarranted, but it's also misdirected, because the biggest alpha male type characters I've ever met, I'm talking about special forces type people. And
right.
I have friends like Ty Ritter and his team who go rescue kids from human traffickers, and they do it guns blazing if necessary in South America, which usually it is necessary. So these guys are putting their lives on the line to rescue kids. Now, these kind of people, when you talk to them, are the nicest guys you'll ever talk to. They're not bullies at all. They're very considerate to everyone around them. They don't speak inappropriately to women. They don't touch women inappropriately. And these are guys who are about as masculine as you can get. So if too much masculinity is toxic, then how do you explain guys like that who epitomize what masculinity is to me? In other words, they embody all these great qualities that come with being a man. Not that women can't be brave as well. Of course they can. But I'm just talking to men because we see a lot of positive narratives for boosting up women. Like, for example, I was speaking at a school in Santa Monica years ago. This is 2003. I just gave a lecture on my business and stuff like that, how I got into it. But anyway, one of the teachers, and I forget exactly the context of why she even said this, but she said that, oh, we all know that girls are way smarter than boys. And then, ha ha. Now, imagine if someone said that, oh, we all know that boys are way smarter than girls. That guy would be fired.
I know.
He'd be fired. He wouldn't have made it through the rest of the day. But somehow this whole notion of I'm a victim, or I'm going to take a victim mentality, so whoever I attack, they're not allowed to defend themselves. They just have to put up with it because I'm a victim and they're an oppressor. Even though me as an individual, I've never oppressed a woman or anyone else in the ways that we hear about in the media and so forth. So why do I have to take on the burden of that? It's like, oh, we men need to call out other men. It's like, yeah, we should call out anyone who's being a jerk.
Right. It's not, and the whole notion of, oh, believe all women, that's a falsehood too, because women are just as capable of lying as men are supposed to be. So you're right. People need to be taken on face value. Right. We want to segregate and create tribes. Oh, this tribe has this attribute, that tribe. And no, people are both great and horrible, and you're going to find great people and horrible of different sexes. And 9 years ago, I was going to start doing a podcast called Open Season on Men. And I just put it on the side burners because I just had way too much going on.
Sure.
But I'm actually going to do it now. In fact, I have already invited some of my first guests on. We're going to attack real issues. Women have done an unbelievable job at lifting their opinions up into meaningful context where it actually is affecting policy and so on. And someone once said to me, when women go through a divorce, they get together with their girlfriends and they plan and they go, well, when men go through a divorce, they get together with their friends and they bitch, but they don't plan.
Right.
And that's why when you look at divorces by and large, and I know I'm going to piss off some women right now when I say this, but when you look at divorces by and large, men get run over by buses in divorces today. I mean, the Center for Women and Families doesn't include men. The Center for Women and Children doesn't include men. When you look at public policy as it relates to divorce, the man is a terrorist in a divorce. He's going to lie about the money he's got. He's going to lie about this. And so men, we are the endangered a group of, and I don't care what, you could be yellow, black, you could be Latin.
Right.
I don't care what you are, Iranian. If you're a guy, you're automatically 2 steps to the wrong side, no matter what you do.
Yeah, and if you're trying to improve yourself as a guy, that's seen as negative too. It's like, oh, why do you need to go to the gym and lift heavy weights? You think you're better than other people? You think you just can bully people easier? It's like, oh, why do you need to make more money? What makes you special? It's like that kind of opinion. It's like anytime you're trying to better yourself, it's like, oh, why do you need to do that? It's like, well, I don't need to explain why I need to do anything. These are things I want to do, and they're good for me, and they're not harming other people. So why do I need to qualify it?
And being strong doesn't mean that you're going to attack people, like you pointed out. I mean, strong guys are comfortable in themselves. They don't have to put out that vibe.
That's right.
I've always found that the most insecure, wimpy guys are the ones that are looking to get in everybody's face and prove that they're not wimps.
That's 100% correct. And when something goes down, you want strong men and women around. If a brawl happens in a bar, you want strong men intervening and squashing that. Strong men and women too. It doesn't just have to be men, but you want strong people around.
There was a guy I tried to get on the show. I can't think of his name right now, and I apologize, but he lives in Minnesota, and he's a power lifter. So I guarantee you have experienced this exact thing. People I know, friends of mine, that are not into physical culture, will see pictures of me deadlifting or see pictures of me leg pressing or squatting and say, man, if a car ever falls on me, I want you around. They always say that, right? You've heard that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it actually happened in Minnesota. An SUV flipped and landed on a guy. And 4 or 5 regular people were trying to lift the SUV up enough to pull the guy out, and they couldn't. And this power lifter who happened to be there, he was like, oh, I think I can move that. He got down and he basically deadlifted this one side of the car, and they were able to pull the guy out. He was even on Fox News. He made it on some news station. And so here's a guy who saved somebody's life because of that selfish habit of going into the gym and training. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like being a superhero when you're really strong. That's something like right out of a movie. This guy has superhero level of strength, and he was able to save someone's life as a result of having it at the right time. What if this guy never worked out? He just happened to be there, and he wouldn't have been
He'd be one of the other 5 guys that couldn't do anything, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to pull it too hard. I'll hurt my back. It's like they don't know that they can do it,
Yeah. That's 100% correct. So I think that, and then also regarding the whole Me Too movement, now my take on that is, I believe most of the women that are coming forward are telling the truth, but there's always going to be a few that aren't, just because they want to be part of the club or they have some other agenda. Now, just saying that will get you attacked.
Yes.
I'm not saying all or even most. I'm just saying a few of them are probably lying. And I'm not saying they're lying because they're women. It's just human nature. People lie all the time. Look at this guy, Jussie Smollett. He allegedly lied about getting attacked, and now he's being prosecuted for that.
Right.
So, I mean, so it's this whole notion of, oh, no one would ever lie about that. It's like, yeah, well, I wish that were true. Now you have situations where I was reading an article in the Wall Street Journal years ago where a guy was saying he loves working with kids, but it's too dangerous because now kids are smart and say, hey, if you don't let me do this, I'm going to say you touched me.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying most kids do this, but I'm saying a few probably do because they're clever and they're going, okay, I can use this as a way to get leverage. So now you have this situation where some of these adults are going, okay, we're never going to be alone, one of us with a kid. It always has to be one other adult around.
Dude, I listen, about 2 weeks ago, I was coming down the road, and there was a car on the side of the road, and I saw a woman standing there. And I rolled down my window. I says, is everything okay? And she said, yeah. She goes, I made a call. I'm waiting for, the AAA or whatever. And I said, okay, good. You're covered. And I drove away. And I thought to myself, imagine if she would have said, can you give me a ride to the gas station?
Yeah.
I would have to think to myself, where I should be able to say, yeah, jump in, I'll take you to gas. I would have to think to myself, wait a minute. She's in the car with me by herself.
Yeah.
what if she says I tried to do something to her?
Right.
And then, I mean, it's like, why do I have to think about that? Because now there's all these allegations. So you're more prone to say to somebody, I'm not even going to ask. I'm going to keep on driving.
No, that's so true. But I mean, fortunately, in most cases, this is not as prolific. And what I mean by that is, look, if I open a door for a woman who's behind me, she's not going to, I've never had a woman get mad about that. They always say, hey, thank you. And I do it for anyone who's behind me, not just women. If there's a guy behind me, I open up the door too, just being polite, right? But I think being chivalrous is also a good quality as well. So you want to be that polite person to everyone around you. Now, if you tell a woman, hey, you look great today, the majority are not going to say, hey, that's inappropriate, because that's all you said. Hey, you look nice today, or I like what you have on today, whatever it is. Very few women are going to say, hey, that's inappropriate, because there's this one comedian, I forget his name now. He had a funny joke. He said that D.L. Hughley, he goes, now, you know, when you compliment a woman, you have to apologize right away. He's like, oh, you look great. I mean, if that's okay. and I think that takes a lot of the fun away from just interactions that are completely innocent. There's no hidden agenda or anything. You're just being a polite person and you're joking around with someone. It's no big thing. But you have to be very careful as well, because a lot of things can be misconstrued. And then some people are just, forget about being a victim. Now being a victim is fashionable. So they're like, okay, I want to be oppressed. When I was in college, I'll tell you an interesting story. I went to the College of Worcester in Ohio, and a liberal arts college campus is basically bizarro land, because the most powerful person in a liberal arts campus is a African-American female. She can get away with anything. She's never going to get kicked out. I had a friend, a white guy, who was in a theater class, and one of the girls came out, or ladies came out, and she had this kind of Afro type hairstyle. And he made a joke saying, hey, you look like Buckwheat from the Little Rascals. And she thought that was racist. And this guy was not racist, and it wasn't mean spirited. It was just a joke. She actually complained to the administration, and this guy got kicked out for a semester just for that. There were 3 guys, African-American gentlemen, who were part of a sting. They were just stealing stuff out of dorms. These are students, and they got caught. And the school was going to prosecute them. And then they said, if you try to prosecute us, we're going to go to the local newspapers and say this is racially motivated. And the school decided they didn't want to deal with that hassle. Just let these guys graduate. So that's what happened. Now, all of these people are in for a rude awakening when they get into the real world. Right. But in this microcosmic world, a lot of the rules are flipped. So it got to the point, we even had this class where it's saying, look, if you're having sex with a girl, you need to check every 5 seconds, make sure everything's okay. It's like, oh, is this okay? Can I do this? Is that okay?
Isn't that terrible? I know. Like, I feel sorry for my son in this day and age.
It's just, excuse me.
Take your time. You know, I lived in Vegas in the 80s. Like, not only didn't we ask, is this still okay? Like, once we got on the way, but I mean, we used to call it sport effing, because like me and my friends, we'd go out, there'd be conventions in town, girls in town, you'd take them out, you'd dance for a while, and, you know, and you'd hook up. And it's like the young kids say, hook up. But now you got to be like, wow, after the fact, what if she says, you know, I really felt bad about what we did, and I think I'm going to report you that you raped me. 100%.
That's also something they said on this college campus. If she consents the night of, but the next day she decides that she didn't really want to do it, she can actually report you. So just forget it. I'm just going to hook up with girls at the bar.
I wouldn't want to be a young man today. I really wouldn't. I
mean, to qualify this, though, most women are not going to take advantage of that, but it only takes one to ruin your life.
Ruin your life.
You know?
Exactly.
The majority.
You know what's really funny? I had Aaron Singerman on the show the other day, and because Redcon 1 is the title sponsor of the Arnold this year.
Oh, okay.
And I'll actually be there Saturday. All day Saturday, this coming weekend, I'll be at the Redcon 1 booth, which is booth 1 through 6. As soon as you walk into the exhibit hall, just go to the right. It's right there.
Yeah.
And so we did a show about fatherhood. You know, he's an amazing dad, and Darielle is an amazing mom, and they're raising children that are really fantastic little guys. And Aaron said something really important. You know, his boys play with guns, and he doesn't spank them, but he teaches them that there are penalties for their actions.
Right.
And he teaches them that if you want something, you have to earn it. And he said during the interview, he goes, you know, I'm raising men. And I thought about that after the interview. I thought, you know, that there are people that would get offended by him saying that. Like he says, you got to remember, Carl, I'm raising men.
Yeah.
Like, in other words, I'm raising boys that are going to be men someday. I need to teach them those life lessons, so when they are men, they know how to be men. But he's not talking about bun, wearing, skinny jeans wearing guys. He's talking about real men who are masculine and embody what manhood is. And today, that's not popular.
Yeah. No, it's not. And then there's also a double standard of, and some people are going to laugh at this, but I've been in situations in Las Vegas where drunk women have touched me extremely inappropriately. And if I did that to any woman, I'd be arrested. But I've had security right in front of me when it happens, and they're laughing. They're like, oh yeah, looks like you're having a good time. And I was like, no, I don't want that attention. Right. But if you even say that, it's like, well, what's your problem? It reminds me of that scene in that movie with Demi Moore and Michael Douglas, Disclosure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Demi Moore is trying to give Michael Douglas, she's trying to give him oral sex, and he's trying to push her away. Everybody's laughing in the theater. Right. They're like, come on. But this is a guy who's married. He doesn't want to cheat on his wife. So he's sitting there going, yeah, she's attractive, and part of me wants to do this, but I'm trying to stop it. Now imagine reverse that situation where it's a man trying to force himself on a woman in some context.
You may as well just go give yourself up and go to jail.
Right. So it also seems like there's an underlying current of masculinity is bad, so we need to make men more like women.
Yes,
let's get their estrogen levels up. Let's get their testosterone levels down. Let's get them talking. They should talk about their problems more. It's like, look, those some of those things are correct, but there's also things that we have naturally as men that when we utilize, that's why we're able to harness qualities to be very successful.
Right.
So when you try to deny who you are, you're denying qualities that are to your benefit.
Well, think about this. So for decades, the LBGT segment had to hide who they were and act hetero to keep their jobs. And now they've come out and they're like, oh, we don't have to hide this. But now they're saying to men, oh, you need to hide who you are. You can't be a man in this thing. You need to hide that. And it's like, wait a minute. You remember how it felt when you did that? Why would you want some other human being to have to do that? And one other thing I want to mention, any man who's ever been in family court knows what I'm about to say. A woman can lie and then get caught, and they'll dismiss your case, but they won't punish her. And I asked a judge one time, he passed away a few years ago, but he was a high-level judge here in Louisville, Jefferson County. And I said, why is it when women raise these issues with that, and they get guys brought into court, and he struck me, blah blah blah, and then you find out it's not true? Why don't you hold that woman in contempt of court and file charges against her for lying in court? Because if a guy did that, you'd put him in jail. And, and you know what he told me? He said, well, we don't want to discourage women who really have had problems from coming forward. If they think, and I said to him, but you're not. That's like saying, let's not lock up bank robbers because not all of them are bad. Right.
No, it's just absurd. And then there's a lot of times people like to quote statistics as well. They're going, oh, statistics show that men rape women at way higher levels than women rape men. Now, that's no doubt true. Okay, yeah. I don't dispute that. But what you have to realize when you're taking those statistics into account is a lot of men are never going to report it. They're going to be embarrassed. So if a woman can rape a guy, she can drug him. He's passed out. He wakes up tied up. And then who knows what happens next? Right. Men can rape other men. Anyone can be raped, right? Now, the thing here, though, is that very few men are going to report this. They're not going to. If they were raped by another man, they're going to feel shame. If they're raped by another woman, they're going to be embarrassed because they're going to think they're going to go into the police station and they're going to laugh. They're going to be like, "Oh, how is that even possible?" That's usually the response.
Right.
So it's the exact opposite, though. When a woman says she was raped or assaulted, people want to believe that. Very few people are going to be like, "Oh, that didn't happen." I'm not saying that doesn't happen. That I've had women tell me that they've brought up stuff to family members, and family members are incredulous, going, "Oh, I don't think that happened."
Yeah, and that's horrible.
And that is terrible. I've had many female friends that were abused as kids, and then they confide in their parents or someone else, and they're hoping their parents going to come to their
They don't want to hear it.
Yeah, they're like, well, I can't do anything about that now. It's like, oh, my brother would never do that to you, which is horrible for someone that's a victim when you're not believed and you're not defended, especially as a kid.
Right.
But, I was sexually abused by a woman when I was 5 years old. And when I bring that up to, a lot of times I talk to guys who are like, oh, a lot of men are a-holes, they do this. I was like, yeah, that's true. But women can be evil too. And that's just a reality. And then sometimes it's as if they never even thought of that. They're like, oh, wow, I never thought of that. It's just this notion of, I'm not even sure where I'm going with this, but it's just this notion of
that men are capable of doing horrible things, but women aren't. And even when women do something horrible, as men, we should be happy that they're doing it. Like,
exactly.
When that young hot school teacher was caught having sex with one of her students,
right?
If I heard somebody say, "Man, none of my teachers did that with me," a million times I heard that, right? Like you couldn't say, women don't say that. Like, oh yeah, she got raped by her teacher. Man, I wish one of my teachers would have raped me.
Yeah.
It's like when guys are sexually oppressed by women, it's looked at like, what are you complaining about? You're getting sex.
Right. Yeah. Even as a kid, people will often joke like, oh, what does she look like? It's like, well, look, when I'm 5 years old, it doesn't really matter what she looks like. You're not a sexual being at that age. So anything she does is not going to be pleasurable to you. You're 5 years old, and it's going to be so it's going to be so stressful that you're going to compartmentalize it in your brain to deal with and at another time, which is what happened to me. I didn't deal with what happened until I was probably 30 or so, because you don't even know what happened when you're 5 years old, so you can't even articulate.
It's kind of blurry too, and the way you compartmentalize it, it's kind of like you keep it out of reach. What's interesting? And part of the reason I'm going to do open season on men finally. More men are addicted to drugs and alcohol. Yeah. More men are in mental institutions. More men are incarcerated in jail. More men commit suicide successfully. That's an important distinction, because more women attempt suicide, but they don't die. Right. They're doing it as a crime. But more men literally kill themselves every year, suicidal. Yeah. Take a gun, boom, there's no coming back from that. So when you look at that, you think, wow, here's a group of people in our society that are really in pain, because look what's happening to them, right? And listen to this statistic. Boys cry 5 times more frequently than girl babies until boys turn 3. Yeah. And why is that? Did they just shut? No, because they're being told boys don't cry. When boys cry, they're being told, oh, stop it now. When girls cry, it's like, oh, come here, honey. So we are taught to suppress our feelings and our emotions. Oh, yeah, 100%. And we keep them inside because we're men. Right. I'm all for strength, but I'm all for sensitivity with it. And this is 100%. One of the reasons I'm going to do open season on men. Yeah. Because men need somebody to stick up for them finally. Yeah, that's right. And then men need other people to confide in, whatever you've been through or whatever negative thoughts you have or whatever you're stressed about. So I'm not saying that some of the things that women do really well is they communicate with other women very well. If they tend to galvanize around each other and support each other. Men could definitely benefit from doing more of that, where you just have a forum where you can be vulnerable and discuss your insecurities, because we all have insecurities. I've got plenty of insecurities as well. The difference is I put mine out there. I don't try to hide it. So people don't really have anything on it. They're like, oh, if people found out this about you. I was like, I either wrote about that in my book or I've discussed it on some platform, because I'm not going to hold all that stuff in. I see what happens to people when they just try to suppress certain feelings. So if you have anxiety or depression, I've dealt with depression on and off throughout my life. One of the reasons why I got into hormone optimization is that nothing had a more profound effect in helping keep my mood steady and positive than dialing in hormones. Right. If it wasn't for learning all this information, I don't know where I would be at, because depression was, when I listen to people like Chester from Linkin Park, and not so much Chris Cornell, because I didn't hear what his thoughts were on depression so much, but Chester had a lot of dark feelings. He was abused as a kid and bullied, and he became famous, and he thought this would make a difference, and it really didn't make a difference. So he's like, now what do I do? I'm this rock star. People love me. Thousands of people are clapping for me, but it wasn't enough, because he had that hole in his soul that he never filled.
And there's a lot of men who feel that way. So I think a forum like what you're talking about is really important. I think when men who are strong talk about their insecurities, you're doing a real benefit for other men, because they're going, well, hell, if he can talk about that, then I can talk about it too. So I think it's important to put yourself out there and discuss openly what your insecurities are. I think it's positive for everyone.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about doing vegan right. I know you're a conscientious. Well, no.
Yeah.
I've
sure.
said this about you before. You're a conscientious vegan. You choose not to eat animals, but as a result of that, you recognize that there is a great responsibility in choosing your food properly.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think of all the people I know who are vegan, you're the one that people could take advice from. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back with more. Right. Stay tuned.
You're listening to the Superhuman Channel. Don't hate us because we feel good.
Welcome back. I want to put this comment back up. Darcy Clark has been an avid follower of the show, and he was just commending us for talking about some very important topic. And I think that I have a strange feeling that open season on men, I've got some really good guests lined up already to talk about how alimony is unfairly calculated. There's actually an error in the calculatory process that they've discovered, but no one's ever fixed it. And that affects women too, if you're the breadwinner. But also the whole issue about depression in men, suicidal tendencies in men. I want to get to the bottom of this stuff. I'm actually looking for a female co-host to bring some balance, so it's not this guys bashing women.
Right.
Because I don't want to be seen as the male Joy Behar. That's not my objective. But I'm really looking forward to this process. So the next thing I want to talk to you about is doing vegan right. So you are a conscientious vegan. You don't believe the vegan diet is necessarily better or worse than the omnivorous diet, but you choose not to harm animals. And this was a gift from your mom. I mean, she taught you to be this way, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can be healthy in a variety of diets. You can be unhealthy on a variety of diets. So you can be a very unhealthy meat eater. You can be a very healthy meat eater. You can be a very healthy vegan. You can be a very unhealthy vegan. It's just how you put things together. So it can be a little daunting for someone that grew up with just eating meat like a standard American diet. Because generally what happens in that case is people start looking for, okay, let me replace every meat product I'm consuming now with some kind of fake meat product.
Right.
And that's okay for maybe transitional purposes or when you're eating out. But you don't want to overload on processed food because it's still just processed junk largely. You want real food because the more real food you eat, the less you actually need to eat because you're deriving more nutrition from the food you're eating. So I want the majority of the food I'm eating to be very high in micronutrients. Macronutrients are very important too, but if I can choose carbohydrates that are high in micronutrients like fruits and vegetables, that's better than, let's say, something like a potato, which is high in carbohydrates, so a macronutrient, but not so high in micronutrients. So it doesn't mean I don't consume those things. I just want the majority of my diet coming from nuts and seeds, legumes, fruits and vegetables, and then anything else, sometimes quinoa, certain things like that. And then I'm also a strong believer in, at least for myself, a good amount of fat in my diet. And I don't keep track of percentages anymore. I used to be somewhat pedantic about that, but now I just focus on high quality food and just getting protein, fat, and carbohydrates at every meal. And it doesn't have to be this perfect 30-40-30 balance. You can dial it in with experimentation. But for example, for dinner, nuts, I'll have legumes like garbanzo beans, one of my favorites, mixed out with some mushrooms and orange bell peppers and tomatoes, some marinara sauce, baby spinach. People look at my meals, are like, wow, it looks delicious. I put a lot of spices on it, like garlic, oregano, etc. So you make this stuff tasty. You make it taste good. And then cook it in coconut oil so you get some fats. Because if you're on too low-fatted diet, your skin is not going to look good. You're not going to be fully satiated. Your brain health is not going to be there. And I've always found that if my fat intake is too low, it has a real negative effect on my performance in the gym as well. Right. So you don't have to go ketogenic and super high fat, but you definitely need good amounts of fats in your diet. So a lot of vegans advocate this 80-10-10 approach of 80% carbohydrates, 10% fat, 10% protein. I've always found that that's That's way too many carbohydrates.
I mean, in fact, if you did an omnivorous diet that way, you wouldn't fare well.
Because most of us, our glucose metabolism is not that good that we could just process, even if it's coming from healthy sources, you can still overdo carbohydrates. So I like more of a balance. And I've always found this what works for me. And whenever someone says, okay, well, that works for you, but I like doing this, I'm like, all right, well, what are your performance? What kind of performance have you seen doing that? I expect to see some impressive performance benefits. And if they have it, great. That means it's working for them.
That works for them, right?
But if they don't, that means you need to change some things around. If you're tired all the time and you're weak all the time, and sometimes I've had people confide in me in the download, people that are very talkative about, very strong advocates of a vegan diet, but then they'll send you an email privately going, you know what, I actually feel like crap and so forth. I don't know if I need to start eating meat again. And I was like, well, you don't have to go that route right away. Let's just focus on improving the macronutrients in your diet and see how that goes.
Part of your approach to the vegan diet is that you also focus so the vegan diet is a diet that you should supplement with as well. I mean, you use some really high quality full amino acid profile proteins like pea protein and stuff like that too.
That's right. Yeah, I have about 1 or 2 shakes a day, usually one in the morning and one after I work out. It's either a pea protein or a mix of quinoa protein, pumpkin seed protein. There's a lot of good brands out there. And I like to rotate protein powders. I'm not overusing certain strains. I'm not getting brown rice protein every single time or pea protein, different strains. This is something I picked up from Charles Poliquin too, because you can develop a sensitivity to anything if you
or a sensitivity or even worse than that, your body can stop using it properly.
Yeah.
It's like, because the body has this ability to do magical stuff when stuff is not abundant, right? When stuff's abundant, the body goes, we get this every day, we don't have to worry about that. But when there's scarcity involved, the body goes, wow, we may not get this protein again, so let's go ahead and build this muscle while we can.
Right.
So you have to do that. You have to. Yeah. But the thing I want to point out again, and I know that I'm being redundant, that there's a lot of vegans out there who believe as long as I'm not eating animal, I'm fine.
Right.
That is contrary to your approach. Your approach doesn't even matter about the animal. To you, you're going, I need all of these varieties, but I also need to make sure I'm getting good, high quality amounts of good protein.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think most vegans miss. They just think, I'll just eat salad all day long. That you're not going to do well with that.
Yeah, I think when you lift weights at a high level or you do some kind of physical performance at a high level, you know whether something's working or not.
Right.
When you're a sedentary person and maybe you're just sitting at a desk all day, the range of energy you need is a lot lower than someone who's very physically active. So one thing that's great about working out hard is that if you start getting weaker at every workout for months on end, you're doing something wrong.
Right.
But if you're getting stronger, and I've been doing a vegan diet for 25 years, so this is not something I picked up last month.
Right.
Sometimes someone's been doing it for 3 months. They're like, I feel great. And I was like, great. But you don't really know if it works for you until you've done it for at least a couple of years. Then you know it's dialed in, because a couple of years is a long enough period of time where you can't just, if you're not getting the nutrition you need, you're going to notice the negative ramifications of that, especially when you're training hard. You notice your recovery is going to be off. And
I had a guy come on the show last quarter of last year who his name is Andrew. Drew, I think his last name is Morgan. He is like he was a high level like vegan blogger. He has like some vegan businesses that he still has today. Like he says, look, we can't talk about this because they're vegan businesses, and but he lost his libido. He lost his ability to maintain an erection.
Right.
And he said, like, just on a hunch, he had a steak. The next morning he woke up with wood. He said, that's it. I'm done with this whole vegan thing. Right. Now, the reason I'm telling that story is because that's not you. I know that's not you, because you're so focused on hormones. So the way you're doing this vegan diet is the way that it should be done. For anyone who says, I'm a conscientious objector to hurting animals, but it's also important for me to remain healthy and viable, because just eating watercress all day long isn't going to cut it for you. You got to do it like you do. You got to go, I need good quality protein. I need that. I need high quality fat. I need that. I'm sure you supplement with. Do you take B12 or any of that sort of stuff?
I take a B complex because I think,
there you go.
Especially when you're pumping out a lot of adrenaline. I mean, this is good for everyone in general, not just meat eaters. I mean, not just vegans. But when you're pumping out, and I'm a fairly adrenaline dominant personality. I'm a pretty driven person, so you can deplete your B vitamins pretty rapidly. So I want to get B12, B6, B5, you name it. I actually did a SpectraCell test a long time ago, and the only thing I was deficient in wasn't B12, it was B6, and B6 is very important for protein metabolism and many other things.
Right.
So those kind of things are used. That's another way to determine whether what you're doing is actually working. And everyone needs good vitamins and minerals too. So it's not like vegans are the only ones that are taking protein powder. Meat eaters take protein powder as well because it's convenient.
If you're doing the keto diet, you're going to be deficient in minerals. You're going to be deficient in certain vitamins.
Right.
In this day and age, unless you are a hunter-gatherer where you literally spend 80% of your day gathering and eating food, because that's what they did, you're going to be deficient in something.
Right. And then the food now, as we all know, the quality is not as good as it used to be. So you're not getting, even if you're eating the highest quality food, you're not getting the vitamins and minerals that you used to get.
Right.
The vitamin D is really important. You've talked about that many times. I mean, who's getting all the vitamin D they need from their diet? Really no one. And then you want to expose skin to sunlight, but you have to expose a lot for a long period of time. And even then, you could be, my vitamin D levels were abysmal, and I'm out in the sun quite a bit. And when I started taking 10,000 IUs of vitamin D, the levels went into an optimal range in a couple of months. It went up to 65.
So you and I are dark skinned. Okay. We have a lot of melanin in our skin.
Right.
So our ancestors, their problem wasn't having too low vitamin D, it was overproducing vitamin D, and that's why we evolved to be darker. Yeah, and when I did my 23andMe, I found out that I have a higher degree of vitamin D binding protein than a fair-skinned person. So I have all the check mechanisms in because my people probably spent all day in the sun. Now, in order for me to get into the 70 nanogram range of vitamin D, I have to take 30,000 IUs a day. I tell people that, they're like, what? Yeah. Because if I was taking 10,000 IUs a day, I was in the high 40s. Yeah. Why? Because my body processes D differently because I'm dark skinned.
Right.
Well, I was taking 5,000. A person could take 1,000 IUs and hit 70.
Yeah, that's right. I was taking 5,000. It barely budged. I was expecting it because that's considered a pretty high dosage. So I was like, all right, 5,000. I did that for maybe 2 months. It went from 20 to 30, which is better, but it's not close to optimal. It wasn't until I did 10,000 that I got up to 64. But now it sounds like I'm going to have to go even higher to get up to 80 and so forth, which is even more optimal range.
Look, so I'm using the Metagenics vitamin D with K.
Yeah, I was about to say vitamin K is really important. So you want those two together.
I take 30,000 IUs a day along with cod liver oil. I'm doing a show. On Wednesday about iron. I found the guy finally to come on the show to talk about iron. Iron ages us.
Right.
One of the things that vegans don't have the problem with is iron accumulation because plant-based iron isn't absorbed as well. But that's a whole nother story. Right. But the interesting thing about that is that he's got me taking cod liver oil. I'm using the Metagenics cod liver oil. He says because all that other vitamin A is synthetic.
Right.
And so I'm taking a tablespoon of Metagenics cod liver oil a day to match the Here's something interesting. People don't even pay attention to this, okay? When you eat liver, superfood, I love liver, right? It has more vitamin A stored in the liver than vitamin D. But everybody's supplementing with vitamin D and ignoring vitamin A.
Right, and that's really important for testosterone production as well.
Well, listen, it's important for building muscle.
Yeah.
We've all seen studies on the retinoid X receptor.
Right.
And muscle growth. Well, what do you think retinoids are? They're vitamin A.
Yeah.
So people are taking copious amounts of vitamin D and they're forgetting. So I actually have gone to natural vitamin A now as well. So.
Yeah, it's just like with hormones, there has to be a balance with minerals. If you take too much zinc, now you're depleting your copper. If you take too much copper, that's a problem. So you need all of these things. You just need it in the right dosage. And I load up on hemp seeds and pumpkin seeds as well because they're both very high in magnesium and zinc. But I like to use supplements as more nutritional insurance, just to make sure that because your absorption levels of food are going to be different at times. So maybe you're under stress, or you're not absorbing the minerals the way you normally would.
Right.
Or maybe that batch wasn't as good as the last batch. So maybe normally there's high levels of magnesium in hemp seeds, but maybe this batch for whatever reason is lower. So to have some level of consistency, there's certain things that are really important. Magnesium and zinc. I have a transdermal oil. I just rub into the skin.
Yeah.
Vitamin D3 is really important. Vitamin A is important. B complex. And people often find I actually like TA65 too. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. That's but
here's the interesting thing about TA65. It's good, but the reality is that now we know that taking the actual full complex.
Oh, really? The astragalus?
Astragalus membranaceous, because it's not just the.
Well, that's way cheaper, so that's good if that's the case.
Actually, it's more effective. It's more effective. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Peter Rouse, who I see watching. Hey, Peter. He actually got me turned on to TA65 a while back, and I like it. But hey, if just regular astragalus is just as good,
full spectrum astragalus actually has been shown. There are other things in there besides the stuff that they concentrated in TA65 that directly improve telomere length. Yeah, and they just kind of I think they're glycosides or something like that. But the recent research shows that astragalus, full spectrum astragalus, is more effective.
Wow.
More effective.
Well, Dr. Wright also talks to a guy who wrote Adrenaline Dominance. He talks about the importance of progesterone, and he's used that to treat adrenaline dominance. But he's also found that progesterone is a pretty potent telomere lengthener as well. But what's really interesting is ADHD, right? A lot of young men talking about men again. A lot of young boys rather, like, oh, he's got hyperactivity syndrome or whatever they want to call it. I go, look, every guy has that, right? This lack of focus, and your mind is all over the place. That's why working out is so good for us, or even going for long walks, because it helps quiet all those voices in your head so that you can focus. I always find that after a hard workout, I'm tired, but I'm also pretty focused. After a long walk, I feel rejuvenated, and you just worked out all these voices in your head, so now you can concentrate. But he found that actually giving young boys progesterone cream, just a small amount, actually helped quiet that racy mind, and all of a sudden these kids are studying for hours at a time when they couldn't do that before.
Interesting.
So progesterone is really interesting, and his theory is that it helps with keeping up glucose levels. So you don't get that when you get the insulin spike. It helps prevent driving down the glucose levels dramatically.
In fact, when women. Michael Lepelt, I'm working on the new formulation right now. Almost done with it, and it works. But yeah, thank you for asking about Primal D. I have a patented topical vitamin D product.
Yeah, I've used yours before. Yeah. I'll start using that again.
It's a cream now, and it's more effective in delivering more. But anyway, where was I going with that? So the interesting thing about progesterone is when women go through menopause, and estrogen and progesterone start getting out of balance, that's when they get hot flashes.
Yes.
And hot flashes are just episodes of hypoglycemia. Right. Because the ability to manage blood sugar, if you look up classic hypoglycemia, shakes, sweating, rapid heartbeat, anxiety, those are the four most prominent things. And you ask a woman that's going through menopause, what are you suffering from? Those are the things. I feel shaky. I have anxiety. I break out into sweats for no reason at all. That is progesterone, as you point out. That's what that is.
And then progesterone is the building block for cortisol and adrenaline as well. So definitely cortisol. I'm not sure about adrenaline, but definitely cortisol. So if you have super high levels of adrenaline, you're likely going to be really depleted in progesterone. So bringing those levels up to a better balance.
Good makes point. Sense. The higher stress you go through, you need more progesterone. Absolutely.
Right. So I had a young lady who's a friend of mine in the military. She did bomb disposal out there. So you want to talk about a brave young lady. But anyway, she did some hormone testing, and it was a saliva test. And I looked at the second page, and her cortisol curve looked really good. Actually, it was the first page. I was like, wow, cortisol curve is really good. It's pretty high in the morning, low in the evening, what you want it to be. But then I looked at the second page, and it was no DHEA. I mean, none, undetectable. No progesterone, undetectable. So she's cannibalizing all of these sex hormones to make cortisol, because as we said earlier, cortisol is essential. You don't make it, you die. So your body will cannibalize everything it has. Everything else. Testosterone, DHEA, you name it. And DHEA is very underrated because in a lot of ways, it's testosterone's big brother. It protects it from cortisol. And it's the ultimate stress management hormone. So DHEA is really potent stuff. And when you have optimal levels of DHEA, you're going to be way more resilient. So like the hormone stuff is just fascinating. I could talk about it forever.
I know. Yeah, that's always been a big thing. In fact, when we came to Las Vegas, that time you and I sat with Lisa, all we did was talk about hormones the whole time.
Yeah.
And but anyway, last thing
everybody wants to talk about this too. If you go to a cocktail party and you talk about training, nobody cares. It's like, I deadlift a couple times a week. It's going to be crickets. You're not even going to have anyone standing around. You start talking about hormones, especially with regards to sexual function. Every guy within earshot is going to be coming over.
Yeah, wants to know.
You're going to be doing a lecture. You're going to be like, wait a minute, I'm surrounded by 12, 20 guys asking me questions about this.
Yeah, let me pass a plate. Hold on, I'm going to pass a plate around. Hey, last thing, speaking of lectures, upcoming events. I know that you travel a lot. Do you still do kettlebell stuff, or are you more in the
it's been interesting. Kettlebells are basically my rear view. I'm always going to train with kettlebells. I love them, but I'm done teaching with kettlebells. I realized I taught a course in Austria, and I just realized, you know what, I'm not really that excited about doing this anymore.
Right.
Then I actually had one or two students say, you didn't really look like you were that excited, and I was like, boy, that's a bad sign. It's one thing when you know, but when it's visible to other people, majority of the people liked it. But I just realized, you know what, that's just not my focus. So I started retailing my own supplements a while back. Obviously, my testosterone booster, aggressive strength's my flagship product. And I have a recovery oil. I've got an adrenal energy product, systemic enzymes.
Where can people get it? At your website?
MikeMahler.com. And they can use coupon code LLA to get 10% off. But what happened is, when I came out with the recovery oil, it was a nice little income bump, but certainly not enough where I could stop doing other things.
Right.
But then I came out with my testosterone booster in 2013, and that blew up. To the point where I go, you know what? I'm making good money doing this. Let me pull back these seminars. So I started doing them infrequently. And then when my mother passed away in 202015, I just didn't want to be in front of people. I didn't know
she passed. I'm so sorry to hear that. I didn't want to interrupt your flow before.
No, it's fine. I appreciate it. So I needed to take some time to myself and just be at home and work through the sadness. It's really important. Work through the grieving process. But I knew that I love public speaking, so I knew that I would eventually get back in front of people. I just wasn't sure what context, because I didn't really want to do kettlebells anymore. So I deliberated on that for a while and decided, kettlebells have become really comfortable because I'm known as a kettlebell guy, and it's fairly easy to fill up a room for that, although it's way more difficult now because kettlebells are so ubiquitous. It's not like it was in 2005.
Right.
But here's the thing. At all my kettlebell courses, I used to talk about hormones for about an hour. That would be like a bonus segment. And usually the hour would turn into 2 hours with Q&A. And then it would get to the point where, because people love that information. It's like, oh man, we have to go back to kettlebell training now. I just want this. So I decided, let me just do a 6-hour event where I just talk about hormones. And I'm going to have special guests there doing some strength training just to break up the day. I'll cover deadlift technique, things like that. So we're not just sitting there all day for 6 hours. But I also feel that, now, some are like, why don't you just make a teleseminar, retail this online? And I did that many years ago. I have an 8-hour hormone optimization lecture series that still sells really well. So I understand the appeal of that, right? You don't have to leave your house and listen to it when it's convenient for you. But at the same time, I feel that as a society, we've lost this face-to-face communication ability where sometimes I'm having lunch with a friend and I go, just what we're doing right now, where we're actually looking at each other, having a good exchange. That's a dying skill because so many people are on their phones all the time and they're on social media all the time. And a lot of times these people on social media that are kind of the alphas of social media, you meet them in person, they can't make eye contact and they're looking at their feeds. It's a totally different person, right?
Right.
So my attitude is like, look, I want to deliver this information in a very excited, impactful way. So I want to be really fired up to deliver this information. I want people going, man, that guy's nuts, but this sounds really interesting.
I mean, you don't see Tony Robbins doing teleseminars.
No, exactly. So that's a really good analogy. So I want people in front of me and I want to be in front of people because I feel like that's going to be the most impactful thing. Down the line, maybe I'll do that. I mean, I'm sure at some point I would make a product out of it. But right now I'm doing strategic events. I'm doing one in the UK, just north of London at a place called Coro Gym. I'm doing that on April 7th. And then, or is it April 10th? Anyway, it's on my website, MikeMahler.com. It's in April. And then I'm actually going to do one for Las Vegas Metro. I have a few friends in Las Vegas Metro. So this would be a closed circuit event or a private event because you want to talk about people that are pumping out adrenaline all day. And I feel like police officers get a really bad rap too, kind of like men do, where people are like, oh, the police are just bullying people and abusing people. Right. That's a very small percentage of police officers. Most police officers, in my opinion, are good people and they want to do a good job. And they became police officers to protect and serve, as the sign says. So my attitude is this: there's very few demographics that there's very few that need this information more than that demographic.
Yeah,
so I think
I
it's really
agree.
important for men and women. Just the talk on adrenaline dominance would be really important.
About 8 or 9 years ago, I tried to reach out to the chief of police here in Jefferson County because I had just read a study that showed how low testosterone affects reaction time in stressful situations.
No
and
doubt.
I wanted to say, look, you've got, there's an old saying amongst hunters, it's the old animals that are the big threat. The young animals, they'll run away, but the old animals, they're just pissed off and ornery for some reason. And if you get in their face, they're going to come after you. Yeah. And the same is true of old humans. And so when you have aging police officers, they don't feel good. They've got aches and pains. They make bad decisions when they're called upon to make fast decisions. Yeah. And hormones play a big role in eradicating that problem. And I wanted the PD here to say, maybe we should talk to our older guys. Let's get their testosterone and estrogen levels and DHT. Let's do a full blood panel on them. Let's see if, maybe we don't want to put them on testosterone, because that would be bad. Because you put somebody on testosterone and they hurt somebody. It's like, oh, it's because he's on testosterone. No, that's not why. But at least maybe change their diets, get them to start paying attention to things that balance their hormones better.
Well, I have a police officer friend who uses my testosterone booster, and he's addicted to it. I usually recommend 8 weeks on, 4 weeks off, just so you don't get desensitized to the herbs. He's like, nah, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to stay on it indefinitely.
Why not?
All right, get your blood work done. Yeah, to some extent, why not? There's nothing harmful in the product. And I've actually found that a little bit lower dose is, I had a Powerlifter. This guy was on TRT, my friend Jack Reep. And TRT only took his level up to about 650. This guy's maybe 55 or something like that. So that's not a bad number, but with TRT, you would expect a better number than that. I don't know if it was the cream. I'm pretty sure it was the cream, not the shots.
Cream. A lot of guys don't absorb the cream properly.
Yeah, you sweat it out and so forth, or you just don't absorb it well. But anyway, he took 1 cap of my aggressive strength, which has about 215 milligrams of bulbine natalensis. That's the cornerstone ingredient. Then it's got mucuna, ashwagandha, and stinging nettle root. Just 1 cap. And then he took 1 cap of EC, my estrogen control product. And his total testosterone went up to 820, and his free level, I think, was 150. Really good numbers.
That's great.
So he got better numbers taking a natural product, which is increasing your own testosterone, than taking TRT. And now obviously, if he took a TRT in a better manner, he would be probably well over 1,000. Obviously, you can go really high with that. Even Clomid, you can get really high taking something like that.
Yeah, but so do you know who introduced both bulbine natalensis and Fidogia agrestis to the United States?
You did.
That's right. Yeah.
I should be sending you royalty check.
No. But I'm just saying, I had a relationship with a scientist.
Yeah, I remember that. I listened to those episodes.
In Ilorin, Nigeria.
Yeah.
His name was Dr. Toyin Yakubu.
Right.
And he first did a study that appeared in the Japanese Journal of Andrology on Fidogia agrestis.
Right.
And then he did one on bulbine natalensis. They work 2 different ways. Bulbine lowers estrogen, and Fidogia increases testicular cholesterol. So that's why you produce more testosterone.
Oh, interesting.
And like I just introduced them because, like, oh, this is really interesting stuff. Next thing I know, like, companies are putting this stuff in their products. Anthony Roberts reached out to me and said, there was a company in Canada, a real big company. They were like putting it in Fidogia. I was like, oh my God, I'm such a jerk. I should do like Life Extension Foundation does. I should have imported it and then talked about it. But
Yeah, Anthony's the one who turned me on to it. And he got a hold of a supply. I tried it then. I was working at Mark Phillippe's gym. I had great results with it. So he helped me in the early stages of putting the product together and introducing me to people that could help me with sourcing and ingredients and so forth. So Anthony's a good friend of mine. He's a great guy.
Yeah, I know.
And he's a very irreverent guy, very honest guy. He's the kind of guy, I always call him the Cronkite of our industry, where
I call him the pit bull of journalism.
Yeah, if there's dirt on you, he's gonna. You better hope that you don't get on his wrong side, because he's gonna find it.
Well, you know what the funny thing is? I got to tell you something. I happen to know Anthony stumbled into some information about a guy who's a very, very high level scientist today. And the guy used to do a little like sketchy, when he was a bodybuilder, a little sketchy stuff, kind of could be gay for pay kind of stuff.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. And Anthony sent it to me. I says, what are you going to do? And he goes, nothing. He goes, I'm not going to, So Anthony's selective. He doesn't go out to destroy people. But what he does do is if you're riding high and you're crapping on a lot of people and he finds something about you, he brings you right down to earth again.
Yeah.
And once he gets his, that's why I call him the pit bull.
Yeah.
It's like 2 years later, he'll write something else about you. Another 3 years later, because he's always looking for stuff that, he's always doing the freedom of information stuff. He gets things about your court cases. So once he gets his fangs in your bones, he's not going away. He's not.
No, that's right. And he's not a guy who can be bought off or shut up because he's not doing it for the money. He's not like, well, let me be an investigative journalist on these things because someone's going to pay me a lot of money for the story. He's doing it for the sake of doing it.
Do you know what I got his agreement to do for me?
What's that?
Because I know he's going to live longer than me. I told him that I want him to eulogize me when I die.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, I mean, because Anthony is honest. He's straightforward. He's not going to say stuff that's not true about me. But he's also somebody who would take that task to heart and do a good job. So he said, I will. Yeah.
I remember Anthony and I talked about a lot of those supplements that were coming out when you started talking about Fadogia and Bulbine. And most of these companies, if not all of them, dosaged it way too high. So people are taking 1,500 milligrams of Fadogia when you really only need about 500.
Right.
And same thing with Bulbine. We're thinking, okay, this according to this study, 650 is a good number. We're finding that it's actually lower than that.
Right.
2 caps of my product is about 430 milligrams, and it's the 2 caps that people are getting the most benefit versus 3. Like I started taking less. I used to take 3 myself because at my body weight around 205, I figured it was the right dosage, and I felt fine at that. But after talking to people like my friend Jack and a few other people I know who do better on 1 or 2 caps, I started thinking maybe this is kind of like Clomid, where I talked to Dr. Mark Gordon about Clomid because I did an experiment with that one time where I took 25 milligrams every day, and I felt terrible. I had shrinkage like you wouldn't believe. I mean, I was like, this is a terrible. And I talked to my friend Tim Larkin who experienced the same thing. And then he told me, if you try it again, do 25 milligrams every third day or 50 milligrams every third day. Mm-hmm. And I tried that and it worked really well. Took my total testosterone to 900 and free to 125. So I was like, okay. So one of the problems that we have is this more is better mentality. Yes. And we have it with everything. Oh, 1 cup of coffee is great. So let's have 5. Let's have a pot. Or, working out, I'm working out 4 days a week and I'm getting great results. Let me work out 8 times a week, twice a day.
Right.
It's like, no, you can take it too far where now it's diminishing returns. And then Bulbine actually works on that bell curve where if you take too much, it actually lowers your testosterone.
I know.
So it's always better to
and so does and the problem with Fadogia is the same thing. The rodents that were given Fadogia aggressors at the highest doses, when they came off of it, their testosterone never came back. It literally the Leydig cells
it just destroyed
became so productive that they just couldn't keep up after that. They just it destroyed the Leydig cells.
Yeah, exactly. So there's more is better mentality. You got to be careful. Even when it comes to making money, I feel like the ratio between what I make now and my free time is very favorable, meaning that I have a lot of free time and I make more than I used to make when I was traveling all over the world.
Right.
And that's really important to me because I don't want to just work all the time. I don't want to be someone that's just chasing the dollars. And I love working, but I like having free time and living my life too. Right. So sometimes you have to make that decision going, okay, if I want to double my income for whatever reason, that's fine. But what sacrifices are you willing to make? Are you going to want to work 6-7 days a week, 10 hours a day to do that? And for what purpose? Maybe you have some important goal of achieving that. But these are the kind of questions you want to ask yourself, because talking about adrenaline, a lot of the reasons why we have high adrenaline is because we have jobs we hate. This is both men and women. Most people hate their job.
Right.
And at the very least, is Johan Hari came on my show talking about depression. And he said that I think it was 60% of people are just ambivalent about their job. I mean, they don't love it, but they don't hate it. But they're not excited about it. And that's bad. And then I think it was a pretty high percentage, maybe 20%. They hate their job. And I remember the last job I ever had was working as a business development guy at a company called Respond.com in Northern Virginia. And I kid you not, there were times where I would drive to that job and I would think, you know what, if I just went off the road right now, who cares?
Yeah.
That's a terrible thought to have, but you're just, because it was so boring. The money was good, so it was tempting just to stick around because it was so easy. But at the same time, I used to be tired all the time. I go, why am I tired all the time? Because there's no excitement here.
Miserable.
Then once I started doing what I do now, in 2002, I got into the fitness business. I got fired from this job, so I said, okay, never again. And then I started just interviewing people that I admired, like Frank Shamrock, the MMA fighter. And that was so motivating for me to even talk to people like that. Charles Pollock and all these people I admired. I was like, wow, this is awesome. And I wasn't making any money at that time, but I was excited every day. I remember the first kettlebell course I ever taught, I had 8 people. They paid like $60 or something for a couple hours. And I think I made just under $500. And I was so excited about that $500 because I was like, wow, people, I'm enjoying this. They're enjoying it. Everybody's having a good time.
And I'm making money.
This is how life should be. So I don't want to do anything that's, I mean, obviously we have to do things that are not fun all the time. Doing your taxes is not fun. You can pay someone else to do that. But if you do it on your own, which I like to do, it's not fun, but it has to be done. Right. But when it comes to working, I don't want to get in front of people and talk about my favorite restaurant or talk about blackjack strategy. I want to talk about something that I'm super passionate about, like the hormone optimization stuff.
Right.
The supplements, I love designing products and retailing them and then getting great feedback from people. I mean, the feedback of how my products have benefited people, that's extremely gratifying.
Right.
So it's just nice to be I think it's really important for both men and women to find a way to get into something you're passionate about. And maybe you have to take an income hit initially. Most likely you will. Maybe you're going to take an income hit indefinitely, but you're going to be so much happier doing that, then it's not worth it to make 3 times more, but you hate it. And it's because you're pumping out adrenaline all day. And then you have stress at home. What if you have negativity at home? Maybe you're married to someone who's not a good fit for you, or your girlfriend or boyfriend, you're just fighting all the time. And then you have makeup sex, and you think, okay, that's great, let's just keep it together. It's like, no, you're just pumping out adrenaline all the time. You just this is negative energy. So those are the things that I think are the biggest dissipations of stress and pumping out adrenaline is a job you hate, relationship stress, and then not spending enough time in nature. Going hiking is really good to clear your head. We got to get away from all this technology.
Well, and when you think about it, when you think about it, so today all of the motivational gurus in the space, what they talk about is grind. Grind. Get up at 4 a.m. Go to sleep at 2 a.m. Grind. And and I've said this before on the show. I blame Bud Fox and Gordon Gekko in Wall Street for this because remember
Creed is good and all that. Yeah.
Well, Gordon Gekko was on the beach with his Motorola 8000 and telling Bud Fox, get up, you don't make money when you're sleeping, that he had just been trading in China or something like that.
Lunches for wimps.
And like everybody was like, oh, so I get it. So I just don't sleep. I just work all the time. And now we have gurus who are out there telling people, you need to get up and grind. And no, you don't need to get up and grind because your life is going to suck if you don't do what you're saying and have time to enjoy your life.
I think motivational seminars are a distraction at best and a waste of time, more likely, because think about it. I've been to Tony Robbins' event, and you go walk on fire. If you have low testosterone before you walk in that fire, guess where it's at the end of it? It's still low. Right. Nothing changed. Now, if I help you optimize your hormones, I improve the whole spectrum. Forget about you needing motivation. You're going to be so self-motivated. You're going to blow through everything in front of you. You're going to, all of a sudden, all these things that you wanted to do, you're going to think are possible now. That's just what happens. But go into a seminar where it's about trying to change neurolinguistic programming. We're going to change the way you think about stuff. Look, you can change the way you think about stuff, but it comes from affecting brain neurotransmitters and hormones. It doesn't come from listening to a speech and all that. And whatever benefit you get is from the hormonal response to that. But if you optimize your hormones, you don't need motivation. You're going to be fired up to do whatever it is you want to do.
Well, and actually, so when you look at the words motivation, what people really want is inspiration.
Yeah, that's right.
That comes from within. You want to you want to lead an inspired life. Here's motivation. I hit a horse, he runs faster. Is that who you want to be? Because then the whip is the boss. You're not the boss. The whip is the boss. So do you want to motivate yourself by forcing yourself to do stuff that you're really not crazy about doing, but you're going to do it anyway because you're going to grind because everybody? Or do you want to lead an inspired life? Do you want to be inspired to do stuff? Like you said, you were inspired. I made $500. I talked to 8 people. This is wonderful. I'm inspired to make this grow.
Right, 100%.
People are lacking inspiration today. They think that, I read a meme and I listen to this guy and I'm going to go out there and conquer the world. But no, you got nothing to conquer it with because you're not inspired.
Right. And then what are you going to do when that inspiration is not there? So like a lot of times I go to the gym, I'm not inspired to go, but I do it because it's on the schedule. It's like, okay, Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday, you go to the gym. So some of those days, I'll be honest, I went to, on Saturday, I was like, I don't know if I really want to do this. And I was thinking about, maybe I should skip it. Then I was like, nah, screw it, go. And I had a great workout.
Right.
So sometimes you just got to blast through sometimes you should skip it. Sometimes your body's beat up, or maybe you feel a cold coming on. And so I'm not saying that you should, no matter what, you should push through it.
Don't grind. Don't grind.
You have to get to the point where you're very intuitive, not just about what you eat, but how you train, because it gets to a point where we're always looking for programs to follow, right? Oh, give me a program for deadlifts. Give me a program for this. My best results come from designing my own programs for myself, because it's very intuitive. I deadlift 3 times a week, which a lot of people would consider way too much, but it's not to failure, and it's 3 different moves. It's deficit deadlifts one day, off the floor another day, partial movement, so you're not burning out your nervous system. So you can hit those pretty hard since it's 3 different moves. And more importantly, you get really good at the skill of doing the actual move. Like if you're trying to get good at playing the piano, you're not going to do it once a week. You got to do it often. Yes. Whatever you're trying to get good at. So if your goal is to get really good at deadlifts, once a week, you waste a lot of time just getting all the setting cue points and just getting into the groove. So I'm a big time into high frequency. I do full body workouts 4 times a week. So upper body press, upper body pull, lower body press, lower body pull, some torso work. 5 moves, get out of there. Sometimes even last 3 to 4 moves. Now, but there are times though where maybe you suck it up and you go to the gym. You're like, screw it, I'm just going to go. But as you're going through your warm-up sets, you realize everything feels heavy. Stop there.
Yeah.
Don't keep going, because it's just going to make you feel worse.
If I would have listened to that inner voice, I would have never torn my left hamstring.
Me too with the groin. I knew it was a bad move. It's not like this groin tear happened out of nowhere. I felt pain on the warm-up sets. I chose to ignore it.
I had the same. I had a tightness in my hamstrings, and I thought, well, I'm just going to just ignore it and keep going. And I was still doing my warm-up sets, and I felt that pop, and it changed everything for me. Yeah. So, that's it. So you're right. You're absolutely right. Mike, let's not wait so long to do this again, man. Yeah, man. I love it. I love talking to you, and thanks for your patience with the communication errors on my part with coming on the show. I've been doing this. I'm in my 14th year. You think that hasn't happened before? Oh, it's happened to me a few times. I just never thought I would be one of the guys. Now I can't make fun of other people who do it. Yeah. There you go. That's why the book, I'm Okay, You're Okay, everyone should read it. For that reason. Because all the things that you criticize about other people, you're going to have happen in your life as well. 100%, man. 100%. All right, brother. Good. So MikeMahler.com is the place to go. Reach out to Mike. Let him know you heard him on the show today. And we'll see everybody tomorrow with the Blueprint Power Hour. Thank you for watching and listening today.